don't like Muslims.
So you're MAGA like me, right? Right?
Or Jews. Yeah, I don't like Indians.
A few days ago, I had the absolute honor of being invited on Focus Trip's stream. I got to talk with Jonathan, Uncle Uji, and Vintage Warfare. All amazing guys. You should check out their channels, watch their content. They make great stuff, just hands down. And amazing gentlemen, dude. They were nice. They all had an insanely good reasoning and points. It was a great conversation. You can go check out the full stream. It's on YouTube. Go like it. Subscribe to those channels because it was a lot of fun. They were very nice, very welcoming, and the community from that channel has been very nice and welcoming, so I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. But on that stream, we had a lot of interesting conversations, and I feel like where the conversation went was kind of centered around immigration. It went in a lot of different areas, but the immigration parts, surprisingly, are the parts that I just cannot stop thinking about. The past few days, I've been thinking about it every day more and more, and I think it's just time we have a conversation about that on this channel. So, immigration. Most of the time when you hear people talk about it, what do they talk about? They talk about illegal immigration, talking about how all these illegals coming into the country, ruining our amazing country and just kind of like messing everything up. But I don't see enough people talking about legal immigration, in the sense that we have been inviting people over legally to this country for such a long time at such a huge rate. And I don't actually think the illegal immigration is as destructive as people are making it out to be. Because I've looked at actual numbers from the Census Bureau and national population projections, all these different things. And I'm looking at the numbers, and even though they do include illegal immigration, at least a guesstimate for how much is here, I've asked myself this question. It was like, how much of this would really change if there was no illegal immigration? And I'll tell you what, for instance, white Americans. As about right now, we make up about 57.5% of the total U.S. population. But it's projected by the Census Bureau and the population projections and all these different things that within 20 years, that's going to be about 50.6%. And even past that, 25 years, it's looking to drop to about 44.9%. Because after the 25-year mark, that's when a lot of boomers are going to start dying off just from old age. So the white population in America is going to dwindle a lot faster than you think. And I don't believe that these numbers are extremely affected by just illegal immigration. And I'll tell you why. Because the decline of white Americans, even if you got rid of illegals entirely, what would that really buy us? 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? White people are not having kids. Americans are not having kids. And that's why all these third worldists are, in our government advocating for us importing people from other countries. Why? Because there's not going to be enough people to run the country. There's not going to be enough people for labor. Nobody's having kids. They never want to address the issues as to why nobody's having kids, so they only come up with a solution that is, well, let's just import other people. And a lot of that comes from legal immigrants. We have people in our government. For example, Omar Feta, the Captain Phillips looking dude who's a member of Minnesota's state senate. He's the one who's running to be the new Minneapolis mayor. And from the looks of things, he's probably going to win. You also have Zainab Mohammed, who is a member of the same senate. And then you have people like Ilhan Omar, Minnesota's representative for the 5th Congressional District. The lady who married her brother to get citizenship. And a lot of people will come out and say, oh, that's not true. She didn't marry her brother. And if you look at the people who say that, the only evidence they really have to even suggest that she didn't marry her brother was the fact that there's no evidence to suggest her brother has any natural birth records from that country. But after just doing a little bit of research, you can find out that the likelihood that anybody from Somalia over the age of 30 that would not have birth records is like 100%, because it's an underdeveloped country And they didn't start collecting birth records on their citizens until like 5 years ago. Only like 3.5% of their entire country's population have birth certificates, and most of those people are under the age of 5. So it's like, yeah, of course her brother's not going to have national birth records from Somalia because nobody fucking has that. But I digress. It's not important. Ilhan Omar is still an American citizen, and it's important to acknowledge that she came here legally. And most of these people in these same positions came here legally. We let in around 1.2 million people in each year, legally, with the 30-year average being over 976,000 people a year. And one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about immigration in particular is there's been a recent push that I've seen on Twitter, on X, by Republicans for talking about Islam. This is because of Mondami running for mayor in New York City. Some of the posts I've seen from conservatives say stuff like, at this point, if you're not being called an Islamophobe, you're doing something very wrong. Or Islam is not compatible with the West. This is not a phobia, it's a fact. And you know what? I actually agree. Muslims like Ilham Omar, Omar Feta, and Mondami will never put American values first in any way, and they will actively destroy this nation from within. Islam is a religion of conquest. Whether through spilling blood or having babies, that is the whole purpose of that religion. It is to conquer everything. And the way of the world is conquest, not just a religious sense, but just in general. Every nation that exists today has done it. And any nation that will survive for the next 200 years will do it in some way, shape, or form. I'm not mad at that. That's reality. That is the world we live in. When I hear people say that America is stolen land or that your country is on indigenous land, when I see and hear people say that, my reaction is just to say, get fucked. We conquered this land. If the ancestors didn't want that, then it sounds like a skill issue. And before it was us, it was entire tribes killing and conquering each other for over 1,000 years. Some would say 2,000. So ultimately, I'm not mad at these people coming here trying to take over our land because that's just the way the world works. That doesn't mean I support it or I like it, but you can't get mad at your enemy for doing what your enemy's just going to do. You understand? You get that point? But all these Republicans getting mad on Twitter, talking about Islam trying to take over us, and I agree, Islam is trying to conquer the United States. But all of the same Republicans yelling at the top of their lungs will be completely silent on the fact that we've already been conquered by all the dual citizens from Israel in our government. Zionist Christians are a big reason for that too. So you want to talk about Islam, fine, but talk about Israel. Talk about how a big reason we have so many people in our leadership advocating for open borders and killing whites by outnumbering them through birth rates or taking their jobs to give to Indians with H-1B1 visas is because most of these people advocating for all of that are Jewish. And just like when you say the Muslim is loyal only to their people and to Islam, the dual citizen Jew in our government is only loyal to their people and to their groups, whether it's the nation of Israel or the ideology of communism, because they both came from the same place. So don't just act like Islam is the only religion that doesn't support Americans' values when Judaism and the Talmudic faith does the same shit at the end of the day. It destroys our nation. So yeah, legal immigration is what's killing this country. The people advocating for it and the people coming here. And let's talk about Indians for a second. All right, let's talk about Indians. Let's talk about the poop festival. When I was on the stream with Focus Trip, Vintage Warfare was making a lot of good points when we were talking about this. And I brought up the fact that, these people are taking our jobs with the H-1B1 visas. And Vintage Warfare said, yeah, they're doing that and they're laughing about it. They think it's funny because it is funny to them. And Jonathan said, they're also killing us on the highway with 18-wheelers. How many times have we seen some Indian dude who doesn't even know how to drive having a CDL license because he got it from California. And on a side rant about California, what the fuck, dude? Why? Like, if you guys want to fuck your state up and have all these people who aren't, citizens live there, whatever. But, like, why the fuck are you giving them driving licenses? Why are you giving them CDLs so they can go across state lines and murder families and kill families? Fuck you. Like, seriously. But back to what Jonathan was saying about it is he brought up a really good point. I don't know how you can reason with a people that come here, and there's millions of them, and they have an IQ of like 67. Or they value things that you don't value. Or the things that you value and the things that your country stand for, they think is worthless. And that's a really good point. How the fuck can you do that? It makes people blackpill for sure. And I don't blackpill, I don't doom, but if there was one thing that was pretty depressing to think about, it's definitely that. It's definitely the immigrants that come here and do not assimilate, and when they do, they assimilate into the wrong groups that hate this nation. Someone said on the stream, I think it was Uncle Uji, he said they look for themselves. And it's like fucking real, dude. That was the realest shit. That's exactly what it is. And most of this does come from legal immigration. That's why there's such a stronghold on it right now. That's why there's so much support for illegal immigrants in this nation, is because we let those people get in with legal immigration. You see how that works? You see how that works out for us? And with the H-1B1 visas and how American companies, instead of paying Americans, instead of paying Gen Z, and the older generations will complain about Gen Z. They'll say Gen Z doesn't want to work. Gen Z's lazy. They'll be like, oh, Gen Z doesn't want to work 70 hours a week so they can afford to live in a 2-bedroom apartment with 15 other people. It's like, fuck you. Yeah, we don't want to do that. We don't want to fucking waste our life and our soul at a company that doesn't give a shit about us. And so a lot of people go the route of coasting. That is something Gen Z does. That's something millennials do. A lot of people do it because they realize this company doesn't give a shit about us. They don't care. And if I'm going to get paid the exact amount, the exact same amount of money, if I was to work 3 times as hard or working a little bit less than I currently do now, who in their right mind would work 3 times harder? And I'll go ahead and I'll bring up some personal examples. I've been working since I was 14. I've had a job since I was 14, and I'm 27 now. And I've had a lot of different types of jobs. I've worked labor jobs. I've worked in offices. I've worked anything you can think of. And I've been at so many places where you work hard and you do your best. And the people, they come around and they say shit like, Tom, you're doing such a good job. You know what? I'm going to recommend you for this promotion. I'm going to recommend you for this. I'm going to put you in for this. You know what? I'm going to get you on this board. And then I say to them, I'm like, all right, great. How much am I going to get paid? How much more am I going to make? And then it's radio silence. Nothing. They won't respond. It doesn't lead anywhere. And some boomer's going to come in the comments and they're going to be like, oh, well, that's because they're testing you out. They're trying to make sure you're responsible enough to handle the workload or whatever. And it's like, to that, I say, fuck you. It's like, no, that's not what it's for. It's so they can give you more responsibilities without paying you for those responsibilities. It's the same thing at literally every type of company, every place. And it's not just me. Almost every single friend I have that's around my age, whether they're a little older or younger, they have the same experiences. Somebody watching this right now knows exactly what I'm talking about. And I have a friend who I've had a conversation pretty recently about this topic where he was wondering, he was like, I don't get it. I work so hard. I do so much better than everybody else. And actually, like the actual numbers for his job, he's not lying. Like he does work harder and he does more. And he's like, they won't give me the promotion. They won't give me this. They won't give me that. I don't know why. And it's like, I've earned it. Like I've been doing this for years. Like I don't understand. They give it to people who aren't even close, who aren't even on the same level as I am. And I had a conversation with him and I said, it's like, well, why would they pay you more? Because from the company's point of view, you're already doing twice the amount of work for less pay. Because you work so hard, because you do better than everybody else, the company just sees that as, wow, he's doing so much better. And we're not even paying him for it. So why would they give you a promotion? They don't. And a response to this from American companies, from Gen Z, from millennials, for coasting, for being like, hey, I don't want to work twice as hard and get paid for nothing. I don't want to give you my soul and get nothing from that, because that is an issue in this country. But the American companies, instead of implementing the policies that they have in place to enforce that, people don't have to do those things, because they don't. They will break policies and rules if it means they can save money. That is something that they do. That's something they've always done. But the response to this, instead of paying their employees more or offering better incentives, their response as a whole is, we'll just import people from other countries. We'll just hire people through H-1B1 visas. We'll give them jobs. And why is that? Because it's slave labor. And I know someone's going to be like, oh, it's not slave labor, they're still paying them. It's like, dude, these people get paid less, and they take a job that an American would willingly do, and they pay them less, right? And then also, this person can't leave. If they want to stay in this country, if they want a chance at getting citizenship, Pajit Kash Patel does not get to have a mental health day. He does not get to take the day off. He has to go to work or he gets deported. And Pajit Kash Patel III or whatever is going to willingly accept those conditions, because even though they are getting paid less than what an American would get paid for doing that same job, it's still way more than what they make in their home country. So of course, they're going to say, yes, it is slave labor. Now, some people are going to be like, it's not slave labor. It's like, okay, all right. It's diet slave labor. That's what it is. It is the diet slave labor of America. And you know what? I just came up with that. That's a saying. I want you guys to spread that all throughout the internet. It is diet slave labor. That's what this shit is. It is forcing these people to go to work, paying them less, with the incentive of you get to live in this country, you get to make more money even though you're still getting paid less than everybody else, and there's a chance that you'll become a citizen after like 6-7 years. So many people will say yes to that, but that doesn't change the fact that it's legal. Diet slave labor is legal in America. It is in these companies' best interest to do these things because there's no reason for them not to. And the politicians that push these policies and these rules, they get paid off to do so. So that's one issue with legal immigration. But illegal immigration is still a problem. Let's talk about that for a second. Okay, well, ICE needs to deport more people. Simple as that. ICE needs to deport more because there is no guarantee that we will be able to keep doing this past 4 years. All these people coming out thinking like, oh, well, no, it's okay. It's guaranteed. Trump's going to run for a third term or whatever the fuck. It's like, we'll be in power. It's like, no, you idiot. There's a good chance that's not going to be a possibility 3 years from now. We need to deport more people, and we're not doing it. If there's 30 million illegal immigrants in this country, according to some people, we haven't even done half of that. And with the way things are going, we won't even do 30% of that by the time Trump's second term is over. So what the fuck are we doing? ICE needs to deport more people. And there has to be a complete plug on the immigration policies. We have to just stop all immigration entirely. Not just illegal, but legal. This country, the people that live here, if you want this country to survive, this isn't something we can keep doing. And a lot of people would say, it's like, oh, but Tom, but ICE doing this, it's very animalistic. Somebody commented, they were like, you're almost there, bro, but it's like, it's animalistic and they're evil and they're Nazis. It's like, you're almost there, bro, but we have to abolish ICE. And it's like, I don't think this guy knows who he's talking to. But I digress. It is a problem. Illegal immigration is a problem. So I'm not downplaying that. I'm just talking about how nobody mentions the legal immigration being a problem. The reason why things are the way they are is because of that. That's where it started. And that's why it's gotten so chaotic and bad. And when you legally immigrate people from other countries, and if their values are, we're going to have a poop festival where we literally throw cow shit on each other. And then you also have other people where they're like, well, we're going to have a call to prayer in the middle of the city 50 billion times a day. And we don't believe in your God. And, we don't really follow your laws. It's like, what do you expect? Doesn't matter if it's legal or otherwise. And it's like, we have to put a stop on the legal immigration. There has to be a plug. There just needs to be. We can't keep doing the 1.2 million a year. And to any boomer that would be like, oh, well, you don't understand. We're a beacon of hope to society and we represent justice and liberty. And, you know, it's like, I'm glad. Like the white knights that are just happy that we import so many people legally, those people, because it helps them sleep at night. It's like, just know because of you supporting those policies, your grandchildren aren't going to have jobs. That's just the simple truth. Your grandkids don't have jobs, and the ones that do have to work 3 jobs, 80 plus hours a week, just so they can live out of their fucking car. So thanks. Thanks, Grandpa. Thanks for doing that. That really helps us out and makes us proud to be Americans. It's the fact that you did that shit. That's great. But there has to be a plug on this. There has to be a change. There has to be an implementation, you know, incentives for people to start families, Americans to start families, white people to start families. And I know that's easier said than done. And I get everything I'm going to say isn't going to be like an exact fix for all this because I'm just a dude with a YouTube channel. And also another problem we have to talk about, nobody talks about, and it's a big problem, is dating and is relationships in America with white kids, with just Americans in general. Young Gen Z women and young Gen Z men are just not getting along, not in the way that they need to. And if you're talking about, well, the birth rate declining, it's going to be even more so in the future. And this is an issue that we actually have to address as soon as possible because nothing we do matters if nobody's having kids. And, you know, someone made a great point on the stream. I think it was John. When we were talking about this, he said, it's like, well, it doesn't really matter how many groups you form or how many kids you have. If the majority of people aren't doing that, and if we're just importing third worldists who have like 12 kids per family, they're going to outbreed you. And it's true, 100%. So there needs to be some policy that comes into place. There needs to be a conversation on relationships with younger people. And I'll make a video talking about that because that is a serious issue. Like literally nothing we can do is going to fix this country if we don't fix that specific problem. It's just as important as the economy. It's just as important as illegals running around, you know, whether they're in gangs or whatever. It's just as important as all those other conversations. And we will have a conversation on that. So don't worry. But to all these fucking Republicans that are complaining about Islam, all these Republicans that won't talk about Indians and they won't talk about H-1B1 visas and they won't talk about Jewish oligarchs in our nation. They won't talk about any of these things. But they'll just talk about Islam and how it's wrong or whatever. It's like, dude, you're like 30% right. You're right there, but you're wrong about everything else. And all these fucking conservatives, they'll say shit like, well, we're a melting pot. Why? Why are we a melting pot? Because some Jewish playwright came up with that shit 100 years ago? It's not even American who came up with that term, you idiot. We're not a melting pot, dude. And anybody who says that is retarded. You're retarded as fuck. In fact, you know what? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take all the Zionist conservatives, all the Republicans, all the melting pot conservatives. We're going to take them all. We're going to put them in Bikini Bottom with all the Indians and the Sharia law Muslims and all that shit. And we're going to take Bikini Bottom and we're going to push it over there. That's what we're going to do. You get the privilege of living in Bikini Bottom where you guys can eat chicken curry rice on the side of the street with your toes or whatever the fuck. You get to do all that. You get to fucking live in Bikini Bottom with all the Pajits and the fucking Mohammeds and all that bullshit. You can do all that. That's fine. It's like, fuck it. Some people, when I say stuff like that, they get mad. They're like, Tom, why do you say that? It's not funny. You're not funny. Your sense of humor is stupid. And it's like, dude, what do you expect? I grew up watching South Park, Futurama, Family Guy, American Dad, SpongeBob, Adventure Time, Regular Show, fucking Danny Phantom, and Teen Titans. Why do you think I like goth chicks, dude? It's like the CIA purposely put goth chick propaganda in those shows. It's the same thing they did with Road to El Dorado, where they were like, hey, yeah, a bunch of 10-year-old boys are going to watch this movie. Let's sexually awaken them with this just baddie chick in a cartoon. All these kids are going to be looking at it. They're like, whoa, dude, she's got curves? What? It's like, what do you expect? How am I supposed to not like goth chicks and Latinas and all this shit? It's like, what do you expect, dude? Of course. It's like, you know what? When it comes to the Bikini Bottom stuff, we'll make some trades. You guys can have all the Zionist Republicans, all the melting pot Republicans. We'll keep the bad Latinas. We'll keep the goth chick Latinas. We'll keep the hot chicks, the ones that go to the gym and eat salads, the big booty Latinas. They can stay, all right? Everybody else, fuck off, okay? That's what we're going to do. But I digress. Sorry for the rambling, but I'm like Led Zeppelin. I ramble on, okay? So legal immigration, both sides, all factors have played a role in the society you live in today. And I would argue more so on the legal side. We cannot keep doing this. This country, no matter how big you think it is, we are just not equipped or set up to deal with this amount of people, especially people who hate this country. And all these companies that hate us because we don't want to overwork ourselves and sell our soul for basically nothing. And they'll turn around and they'll hire some foreigner because they'll save them some pocket change. Fuck you. I don't care if you're an American company. I would actually love to see your company burn to the ground. I would piss on your ashes. That's what I would do to any of these companies that have been actively firing Americans and hiring foreigners. Fuck you. To any politician that would advocate for more legal immigration in this day and age, with all the things that are going on, fuck you. You're tone deaf as shit. You do not represent the best interests of any Americans in this country, and you should be fired 100%. If you can live in this day and age, and if your job revolves around politics, and if you don't understand that, you're not fucking good at your job at all. And I understand people are going to say, well, it's because they get paid to do that, and you're right, they do. But this is an issue. This is a problem, and I don't think enough people are acknowledging the fact that a lot of this comes from the fact that we allowed it. It's not just from the people that crossed the border and weren't doing it legally. It's because we allowed people to come here and we gave them chances. And a lot of people did assimilate in the right ways. I will say that. That is obviously just a given. But a lot of people didn't. And unfortunately, it's mostly that side. It's mostly the latter. It's mostly the people who didn't assimilate properly and who hate this country and hate this nation. And to any white person who's Gen X or boomers or whatever, what do you think this country is going to be like for Gen Z when they're older? When the majority of this country isn't white anymore, they're not Christian, they don't have any of the same values that you have or I have, and they hate white people because they've been taught to hate white people. Do you think your grandchildren are going to be safe in that country? No, and we're already seeing that. We see people who are in old folks' homes, retirement homes, where they get beat up because they're old and they're white. We've seen stuff like this happen, and it's going to continue to happen. You think the person who beat those old people up in those retirement homes, you think they got here because they came over the border illegally? No. They had families come here legally, and that's where it came from, and they have a hatred for us. They have a hatred for what this nation is. They have a hatred for Christianity, for God. And I know a lot of people get mad at me when I say, well, this is a Christian nation, and to fix a lot of these issues, we need Jesus now more than ever. And a lot of people roll their eyes at that and get mad. And I say to that, get fucked. I have yet to see a single argument from any of you people in my comments that suggests that us not pursuing those Christian values, those traditional Christian values, not the Zionist Christians, but the traditional values. I have yet to see an argument from any of you fucking atheist Redditors on how that would be bad. Other than the fact that I get about 2 sentences into your entire 4-paragraph book that you wrote me, and I already see the mask. I see that you just hate Christians. You just hate God. That's where your argument and your logic comes from. Nothing other than that. This is a Christian nation. Suck a dick if you think otherwise. That's just the truth. And that is something we have to do. We have to get back to those values. And there's a lot of problems. And understand I'm not really giving the best solutions. And there's a lot of people that have been trying to talk about this recently on how we can fix these things. And maybe I'll make a part 2 video going over those topics. But this is just a conversation that has to be had. It's not illegals that are just the problem. It is legal immigration. People aren't assimilating. They're not following the rules. They're not following the laws, and companies are being incentivized to hire them and to fire Americans. More and more people are going to have no jobs. And this is obviously an issue that a lot of people are concerned about because it was the main topic for people for who they voted for last year in the election. That's why Trump won. And unfortunately, We are 10 months into this presidency at this point, and they're not doing a good enough job. Not with ICE, not with legal customs. And we can go back and forth on that. I'm sure there's somebody who's going to defend it. Sure, fine. It's not good enough. Even from the illegal perspective of how we have to get these people out of here, we're not doing enough on that front. And it doesn't matter how many illegal immigrants you kick out. If we keep accepting 1.2 million people legally into this country each year, and if half of those people are Muslim or Indians, you're not going to have a country either way, whether it's through illegal immigration or legal immigration. Ultimately, this country is going to be destroyed. The only difference being is it going to be legal or illegal? Are there going to be white people or are there going to be no white people? It's not going to matter. Because when you have too many people from other places, they don't have the same values. They don't care about the same things. They just don't. It doesn't mean you don't value them as people and you don't see them as people, because that is what God calls us to do. We are called to forgive people and to love people. But, John made a good argument about this on the stream, and I really recommend you guys go watch it because it was a great conversation. But he made a great point. He said, just because we see them as this doesn't mean they do the same. They don't see you as being worthy of living, worthy of having a country, worthy of being alive. And these are topics that explain why a lot of people do black pill, explain why a lot of people do call for violence on our side, because that is a big issue. And although I don't do that, and a lot of people get mad at me for not calling for violence, sure, fine, whatever. We can disagree on that. But you are right on the fact that this is a problem. A lot of these people don't like us. They don't want us here. They want to take over our shit. That is the way things work. It is tribalism. It is conquer or be conquered. And right now, we've already been conquered by the people who are in power. They do not have a loyalty to us or to the American people. They are loyal to either businesses, companies, pharmaceutical, or entirely different nations like Israel. Or in some cases, not even Israel, but just an entirely different ideology like communism. So it's like, yeah, there are a lot of enemies. It is an attack on all sides, on all fronts, illegal and legal. But we have to acknowledge the fact that a big reason why that is because of the laws we have passed. The immigration acts we've put into place in our country's lifetime. In some instances, yeah, they did fix certain things, but I think we could say as a whole, it's done a lot more damage than good. And that might actually be the thing that killed us. It's just, it hasn't happened yet, but it's the ticking time bomb that's eventually going to go off, and that's what did it. But the problem is there's so many of those in this country, whether it's the economy, whether it's dating, whether it's the spiritual warfare that's going on, there's a lot of that. But something needs to be done about legal immigration, not just the illegals, but legal as well. I don't have an answer to fix all of that, obviously. I don't think anybody really does. And the people who are in positions to actually implement those fixes, they definitely don't have the answers because they're not doing anything. They're just actively making it worse. And I mean, we can go on for hours talking about this. This was just something I hadn't mentioned on my channel before yet, and I feel like this is something a lot of conservatives just don't talk about. They talk about one side of it, but they don't talk about the full picture. They talk about Islam, but they don't talk about the Jewish oligarchs who are hiring so many Indians and firing Americans. They don't talk about what this does to the economy as a whole. And to anybody out there who is a communist or a socialist, and if you think those people that you admire that talk about these issues and say, oh, it's because of colonialism, it's because of imperialism, it's because of the white people, it's because of capitalism, all of those fucking idiots, I just want you to know they don't have the answers either. And I can guarantee you whatever system you think is going to work besides capitalism in this type of society is not going to work. That's a whole other conversation, though. I already just pissed a bunch of people off by saying that. Fine, whatever. Disagree with me in the comments. I'm more than fine with that. You think I'm upset with pissing people off or saying something that's going to be controversial? No, I don't care. Whether it's people who are unsubscribed to my channel or people who are subscribed. Because that's the thing you're going to have to understand about me. I'm not always going to say something you're going to agree with or you're going to like, and that's fine. It's the whole point of the First Amendment, isn't it? is that we can disagree. It's not so we can agree on everything, dude. It's so we can disagree. So I don't mind that. But the legal immigration is a big factor in this. Look at the statistics. Look at the research. It's as plain as day. And even if we kicked out all the illegal immigrants in this nation, all the aliens, whatever, it's still not changing the fact that there is a ticking time bomb. There's so many. But that is one of them. And I would argue that's probably just as deadly to this nation as the economy, as Islam. People saying, oh, it's just Islam. It's not just that. There's so much more to it. And, you know, I'll go as far as to say this, because some people are going to be like, oh, this guy just wants this country to be white and Christian. We can all dream. I'm just kidding. But like, I'll say this. There are people who do come here who do assimilate. They worship our God. They accept our customs. They obey our laws. That is a thing. Those are people. But be real for 5 seconds. That's not a majority, especially not at this point in time. So this is a conversation we have to have. This is something that needs to be said. And all these conservatives that will come out and they're basically like politically correct conservatives that will just talk about Islam but won't mention anything else. Don't listen to those fucking idiots. In fact, you know what? Challenge them. Be like, well, why aren't you talking about Jews? Why aren't you talking about Indians? Why aren't you talking about H-1B1 visas? Why aren't you talking about Americans not having jobs, not being paid enough, companies fucking us over? And somebody's going to say, well, you keep talking about that, but you say you like capitalism. And it's like, well, look, I get it. I understand why you don't like it. And to anybody who would disagree with that way of thinking, it's like, well, you can't have a system like this that just doesn't work and expect people to just not go to socialism or communism. It's not how people function. So it's like, I get all points of view. I understand. I just don't think communism would fix anything because I understand what communism really is. It's designed specifically to kill people, especially Christians. You can disagree on that. Fine, whatever. You're wrong. And socialism, ultimately, especially in a country this massive, will just lead to communism. So I don't think that's an answer either. But it doesn't help the fact that we keep importing people from other countries that enjoy those things, okay? And advocate for those things. So it is a problem. But I think that's enough from me. I'm not really getting anywhere else other than that. I think I've raised awareness enough to this issue. I want to hear what you guys have to say about this. Do you agree? Do you disagree? And before we end the video, I just have to say, I got to give a big thank you to Focus Trip and Jonathan on that channel for streaming my video a few weeks ago because, and I'm going to be honest here, I'm not trying to glaze or anything, I'm just being real. Because of him doing that and because of his community coming over here, because he told his people on the video, he was like, go watch his channel, go subscribe to Tom, go like his videos. You helped double the subscribe count of this channel. You helped make tons of videos go viral because it got people to watch my other stuff. So I owe a lot to you and towards you and your community. You guys have been nothing more than polite, nice, reasonable. I'm grateful you had me on the stream because I got to talk to Uncle Uji and Vintage Warfare, and I got to learn a lot, and I'm grateful I got to meet those guys because they make killer content. Like, I'm serious, dude. Focus Trip, Vintage Warfare, Uncle Uji, dude, they make fucking fire content. They're not just ranting like me on a microphone. They actually make really good videos, so I highly recommend you please go check them out. Go subscribe. But thank you. I'm really grateful for you guys, and especially to John, because it means a lot. It's helped me out greatly. So thank you. Thank you. And to all the people that watched this video and were like, hey, he was rambling a lot and it's crazy. It's like, what do you expect? That's what I do. I rant. It's like, I rant, dude. I tried to do a little bit more with this video, but there's still so much to research about this. So maybe we will have to make a part 2. This might actually have to be a series. There are topics that we are discussing here on this channel where it might have to, be more than 1, 2, 3, 4 videos. There might have to be a saga of videos talking about these things because there's so much to them. They're so complex. But thank you guys. If you did enjoy, if you did watch, if you did listen and hear me out, it means the world that you would do that. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. If you did learn anything new, if you did like it, if you did enjoy, please like the video. Please comment your thoughts below. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification, follow me on Rumble, and follow me on X. Dude, I'm on X. We're going off. We're saying crazy shit over there. It's a lot of fun. But guys, in the meantime, thank you so much for listening to me, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. And like always, guys, America first. Jesus Christ is King of Kings, and I will see you all later.